Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at this R6. It's having some misfire that's worse at higher temperatures. When looking at a misfire, you want to check your fuel, your spark, and if it's anything other than that, it's kind of another problem. So I'll throw in a clip of it doing the problem. That way, if you're on this video to see if will help you, you can get an exact comparison. So we'll cut to that, and then we'll cut back to diagnosing it. So you guys heard the bike stuttering like that, it would kind of misfire. And this can probably be attributed to bad fuel, poor ignition, or maybe something else in your circuit, in your actual engine maybe. Hopefully not anything like that. But my process I've already taken is I put fuel stabilizer in the gas, got new gas, so it's probably not bad gas, because that's probably the first thing to look at. Second thing is spark plugs, and that's what I'm gonna be doing today, with an asterisk of, if you're really trying to optimize your time here, which I'm not, if you're trying to optimize your amount of work inside this, do spark plugs and coils at the same time. As long as those coils are from a reputable source, don't get the Amazon ones, because you're probably gonna create more problems. And so today I'm gonna be doing spark plugs and then dielectric grease on the top of the spark plugs to hopefully eliminate the issue. And this is the cheapest entry, because I know coils are like $100-something bucks, or if not more. So I'm gonna dive into this. It's not too hard, it's just hard to get to. So we'll see if we can just get by here with a properly gapped set of plugs and dielectric grease. First step is obviously gonna be getting off your seat here. And then once you go over your rear fairing, just kind of shimmy it out. Next is your fuel tank. What I like to do is take these two bolts out and then go get a piece of wood, a little scrap 2x4 you have, get this tilted up and put the 2x4 in there. We're gonna see if we can get away with not fully removing the tank and the fittings and all the connectors, just tilting it up. So this is how I normally hold it when I'm doing anything under here. I don't think this is gonna quite work for us, unfortunately. Well, that might. This bike's been through a lot, but yours should all be Phillips. This one is mismatched. And be rather gentle with this. I've had these be very finicky. Next step is to get the base of this airbox off. We are going to remove all the various accessories attached to the bottom of it. You can see one there, vacuum line or hose with these constant tension clamps. So we're gonna get rid of those guys, or take everything off and get the whole airbox out. On this side, there's also an electrical connector. I found this tool to work pretty good. This is for plastic clips and such, and plastic version of this would probably be good, but I've used this for hoses just to break the initial seal, because they're kind of hard sometimes. Well, those hoses fell off much easier than I'd expect. This is really hard to get a shot of on the tripod, but inside here you can see your coils, and underneath, I guess, on the other side of this, you can see that coil. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm gonna see if I can unplug those without breaking anything and extract the coils. I apologize in advance for the bad angles, but I can barely see as well. You can see how these clips work. Just did the one that's probably obscured by that hose, but just pinch it gently, push forward, then pull it off. There you go. So these two are probably gonna be the easiest. So I can do those in front of you guys, and then you'll have a good reference to use your imagination on the outsides. Little bit of debris inside there, which is interesting. I'm not going to pull the spark plugs until I'm done rummaging around here, just in case I knock something in. I'll mark this as the respective coil, just so we don't introduce any weird issues. All right, this one was attached to that spark plug a little better. Took a little bit more force. This one's pretty much clean. All right, we did the easy ones first, and now the hard ones. This one has a lot of crud in it. Not too bad either. So the work I've done doesn't eliminate the coils as being the problem thus far. There's no really good way to be able to look at them and tell, other than if there's like a really crazy amount of corrosion where it meets the spark plug, but that the actual coil might be bad. So you would never really be able to tell. I'm sure you can test somehow. I'm sure someone online knows. But now we have nice semi-clear access to the spark plugs. And we're gonna change them one at a time and gap them one at a time just so we don't drop anything in there. So I don't have a fancy spark plug socket, but these are 16 mil. So my plan is to just use this magnet after we get it unthreaded to extract it. This big of an extension is probably gonna be difficult on the outside, so we might have to get creative. And I'm using a normal ratchet rather than the auto ratchet just to kind of just feel the situation out before blasting. Okay, not too bad. All right, there we go. And ooh, buddy, this thing is smoked. Let's get a closer look. We can see this one's pretty fouled. It's brown, carboned up, and it looks in pretty rough shape. And another thing I noticed, these are CR9 EKs. The bike actually calls for CR10 EKs, or at least these are listed as compatible. So the 9 and 10, from my understanding, is the heat range. So this is actually meant to run not as hot as the 10. So the higher the number, the hotter the heat range, from my understanding. Someone feel free to correct me in the comments. But this is for a higher heat range, so that might explain why this is actually misfiring or failing to spark at that normal temperature. And then once it's actually up to like 200 degrees, then it starts having a problem. Maybe that's just my complete guess. So I'm gonna go over to the table, make sure all these guys are gapped correctly, check the gap on this just to see what it was, and then we'll install it. I'm familiar with checking spark plug gap on normal spark plugs, not these double electrode style ones, but I imagine it's still the same process. I'm just gonna slide this tool in, and once we start getting tight, we'll know where we sit. Okay, so it's at about probably 30 thou. And from my memory, I think spark plugs in the R6 should be 24 to 28 thou. So that would be more so about here. So it's a little big, but I don't think that would cause a horrible problem. And this one is big as well. So this one was a little off, but not too far off. And now we'll size the new one. All right, we are tight. These plugs were a little harder to gap than normal plugs, but I found it was pretty easy just to get a set of needle nose on one of the tabs and just ever so slightly bend it out, because you don't really want to apply any pressure on that, like by wedging anything in there. So now you can see our spark plug gap. If you just wiggle this right on, sits probably 27, so maybe I'll snug it down a bit, but it's within range now and ready for installation. Okay, so we have our spark plug gapped to about 26 thou. We're going to gently lower it down into here because we don't want to drop it. Just ride my finger on it the whole way down, and we can tighten it by hand. If you have the nice spark plug socket, that might be even easier. All right, so we got it snugged up, and now we're going to tighten it to 12.5 newton meters, I believe, or 9 foot-pounds. I had to go get a different torque wrench because my other one I wasn't confident in, my 1/2 inch. All right, there we go. The inner right cylinder has pretty much the exact same wear and exact same gap as the other inner cylinder. So we'll get that swapped out with the new one. Okay, so now we're moving to the difficult ones, the outsides. This torque wrench is a little finicky, so don't feel like I'm over torquing it. I actually did check, and it's a little funky. Honestly, we probably should put dielectric grease on the spark plugs, put them in just so we can be 100% sure, but we're just gonna put some on the insides of the coils and then install the coils. going to start with the easy ones. And I do have some dielectric grease inside here on the terminal area. So line it up with where the connector needs to go. There we go. All right, I'm pretty confident in all those. They're pretty on there tight. Now we just got to redo the connectors. So I got all the hoses tightened down, and that one electrical, I think that's the intake air temperature sensor, got that plugged in, and then also just vacuum the inside of here, the actual filters area, just to be sure that everything's clean, since I guess it probably hasn't been checked in a while. I'm gonna insert that ring, and on my actual R6, my K&N, that ring is integrated into the filter, and I like that a little bit. I guess a little bit more than this. And your filter might look different than this one because I've had to modify this one a bit. You really can only get this for very cheap, or this whole assembly here for very expensive. So I just buy these filters and then remove this. And I know usually removable fasteners in the air tank is a bad idea, but it works here. We're good. The fasteners, these were rivets in the stock one, but I just pop this off, throw a new one in, when it needs a new one. But I digress. We'll now get the cover back on and tighten down. He'll probably have a little bit more plastics. This one's missing quite a lot. Don't forget the tubes in here. I really like those front intake tube things. But besides that, we can go with the reassembly of, I guess, screwing the tank back. I know this is fairing hardware that's being used in the seat. This bike is the bike that will not die, and I love that. I love keeping it going because it's actually a low mile bike. It's just seen a lot of abuse by its prior owners. I think it's actually only like 12,000 miles, which is crazy because mine's like nearly 30. All right, let's get this thing back out in the sun and see if we fixed anything. So you can see we actually did fix it. The misfire issue at those higher operating temperatures is gone. Sure, you have the little cam, the little, not stutter, but the non-constant RPM of a higher performance engine, but there's no pinging, which it would be really troublesome long term. So you can see, I guess the spark plugs were really fouled, and the connection, one of the connections was actually rusty. So basically, if you're doing this at home, check the gas. Do your spark plugs. If you're on a budget, do your spark plugs and not your coils. But if you want to blow money, just do them both at the same time, so it's less stress because they're coming out anyway. So this got us fixed. This got this bike back on the road. I know the bike's a little rough around the edges, but if you could point out any parts missing that I didn't catch that aren't obvious, like plastics or I guess various other things, or the intake pipes, maybe some weird electrical thing. I know something is unplugged, but 2 or 3 things are unplugged over there, but you don't need to point those out. But if there's anything else, feel free to comment if you caught anything weird or a safety concern. That'd be even better. But if you did watch this for the actual repair, thank you, and I hope it helped. And if you're watching this for entertainment, glad you're here. Thank you.